Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Karmic Gacha system in Modern Family World. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 216, Aftermath. General POV. After being safely escorted out of the warehouse, Edward was immediately taken to an ambulance where he received medical attention for his bleeding right arm. He required 2 stitches to close the wound. Edward sighed before he reminded the police, "Oh, right, there's a laptop with an encrypted file on it. I don't know what's on there yet, but those guys seemed anxious to want me to break it for them. Now, there's important data involved? What's on there? Some national secret? Blueprints of Alcatraz?" Jake Peralta tried to guess without even hiding his excitement. Amy rolled her eyes at Jake and said, "Shouldn't we recover them first before you try to guess what it is? Here. Your phone." Amy handed over Edward's phone back to him. "Right. Let's go, Amy," Jake said before both of them re-enter the warehouse. Meanwhile, the police continued their operations inside the warehouse, apprehending the individuals on the ship who were identified as accomplices. However, the arrest did not come without a major shootout between the police and the criminals. As news of the incident spread, the surrounding area quickly became chaotic, with reporters swarming in to cover the story. Footage of Edward with a bruised face and a bloody arm was swiftly broadcasted worldwide, capturing the attention of the public. However, what shocked the public even more was learning about the fate of the kidnappers. 11 men were taken down by a lone teenage pop star, a detail that was accidentally leaked by Detective Jake Peralta during a lively phone conversation with his best friend, Charles Boyle. The reporters tried to pass over the police line to interview Edward, who was drinking a calming tea the police had given to him while sitting at the back of the ambulance. "Edward! Edward! Look here!" the reporter shouted. Edward slowly turned to them and then suddenly thought of something. He then took out his phone and called someone. Startled by the unexpected phone call, Ted hastily answered his phone, his heart racing with concern. "Edward? Is that you? Are you all right?" His shout made everyone at the airport stare at him. Edward's voice came through the line, filled with relief and a hint of exhaustion. "Hey, Dad. Yeah, I'm okay. It's been quite a day, but I made it out safely. I just wanted to let you know." "Edward! How did you get out of there?" a reporter shouted. "Edward! How are you feeling right now? Answer US. Is it true you broke a guy's neck?" Ted let out a sigh of relief. "Thank goodness. I've been so worried. What happened? Are you hurt?" Edward paused for a moment before responding. "I'm a bit bruised and have a cut on my arm, but nothing serious. The police are taking care of me, and they're doing their best to make sure everything is under control." "What happened?" Ted asked again, sternly this time. Edward sighed and said, "I broke off a guy's neck, fought off a couple of them, and broke free of the warehouse." "Can you wait a sec?" He gazed at the reporters with irritation and spewed, "I'm talking to my dad right now to tell him that I am safe. Can you guys at least have the human decency to let me do that?" His warning startled the reporters, however they soon took his warning as a challenge and kept shouting their questions at him, this time laced with provocations. "Did you plan the whole thing for publicity? Did you pay off the shooters? Are you a racist? Were you purposely trying to get Kay destroyed?" Edward ignored all of them and waited for his dad to answer. "Dad, are you angry?" "Hot damn!" Ted shouted, causing Ed to move his phone for a bit because of the loudness. In the airport, Ted pumped his fist in excitement. The rest of the ship crew was confused, but as Ted told them Ed was safe and had fought off 11 men, all of them cheered. "Sir, you're causing a disturbance. Please come with us. A few airport security came to Ted to escort him away. Ted stammered as he spoke to Ed, "Come back home as soon as you can." "All right. I got to go." "Okay. Make sure to get a refund for the ticket," Edward said before he cut the call. However, at this moment, one of the photographers jumped through the police barricade in an attempt to get a closer video of Edward. He was blocked by the police, but he could still snap the photos of Ed from right in front of him. Jake Peralta saw Edward's dangerous gazes and then exclaimed while standing in between the reporters and Edward, "This entire area is closed off by the police. Please stay clear or you will be arrested for obstruction of justice." "Shut up, pig," the photographer cursed at Jake. "You know what? You are arrested," Jake said as he took out his handcuff and cuffed the resisting photographer. Rosa quickly went to Edward and said, "Let's go. We will take you back to the precinct. You don't need to stay here anymore." Amy held a laptop and joined Rosa. "We will contact your guardian to come pick you up at the precinct." "Can't you guys just drop me off at the hotel?" Edward asked in a tired manner. Amy shook her head guiltily and said, "Procedure. Screw it. Do you know how many of these hyenas will camp out in front of the precinct? Let's just get him back to the hotel." Terry interjected quickly. As he was top in the command line in the precinct right now, he could make his own decisions about the matter. Rosa smiled and teased Terry, "You're just grateful that he tackled you away from the line of fire." "He saved me, Rosa," Terry exclaimed, making Edward smile. Suddenly, his stomach growled, and it was heard by the detectives there. Amy smiled while Rosa grimaced and asked, "You just ate. How are you still hungry?" "Well, being in a high-pressure situation does help with one's appetite," Edward replied with a shrug. The revelation that a well-known pop star had single-handedly defeated a group of kidnappers added a sensational twist to the story, garnering widespread interest. The media coverage intensified, with news outlets globally picking up the remarkable tale. Social media platforms buzzed with discussions, debates, and support for the brave actions of the young pop star. Memes, fan art, and trending hashtags flooded the internet, further fueling public fascination. A meme about Edward breaking someone's neck especially gained the most attention on social media. Him being a disciple of Chuck Norris, Obi-Wan, and even Anakin Skywalker all popped out. In California, all of Edward's friends finally breathed a sigh of relief when they heard the news that Edward was safe and sound. However, most of them didn't go about their day and were still waiting for Edward to get back home. Especially the three siblings who were extremely close to him. Edward POV. The detectives sent me straight back to the hotel after the whole incident. I could see some reporters were camping out in front of the hotel, which made me feel even more tired. I was sitting in the back of the police car with Terry, and the woman detectives were sitting in the front. "What's in it?" Rosa asked as she saw me breaking down the encryption on the laptop, just for fun. Amy was objecting to giving me the laptop before as it could be evidence, but I convinced her that my fingerprints were already on the laptop, so it doesn't matter if I unlock the passwords before they filed the laptop in. "A bunch of names of U.S. espionage agents," I replied to Rosa. "Wait. So you recover the names of our agents too? This is a matter of national security. You can get a medal for this," Amy said in excitement. I looked at her in disbelief before she calmed down consciously and said, "Whatever you want to do with it. I'm cool. Please, I don't need any more attention on me," I said with a sigh. "Right now, all I want is some meat." "Meat?" Rosa asked, intrigued. Edward drooled and said, "Huge chunk of meat, on top of a bone, like in anime." "Oh, you like to watch anime too?" Terry asked, excited. Edward turned towards him, and his lips slowly curled from meeting the same people. "You like them too? What did you watch?" "I like the old stuff. Gundam. Cowboy Bebop," Terry replied. Edward nodded and said, "Even if I recommend you some new ones, you'd couldn't take the time to watch it, huh?" "I can watch it, sometimes. Terry replied with hesitation. Edward chuckled. They walked to the hotel suite, and when the detectives saw the guards there, they were astonished. Rosa exclaimed, "Damn, I thought you had no protection at all." "I have you guys, so I let the guards protect my friends," I replied. "That's incredibly selfless, or stupid." "I don't know where I'm leaning at," Rosa replied with confusion. Edward shrugged and said, "Besides, it's all happening in such a short time frame." Before I could knock on the door, Pepper opened the door dramatically, with tears in his eyes. "Where is he? Where is my child?" "I'm here," I replied while raising my arms weakly. Pepper was aghast as he saw my bandaged arm and bruised face that he almost fell down. Luckily for him, Terry was there to hold him from falling. He stood back on his feet. Hawagdashi then rolled his eyes and almost fainted again. "Get yourself together, man," Terry exclaimed as he caught Pepper for the second time. I held back my laughter and said, "Peps, you didn't do that just to get a touch of his muscles, right?" I caught his hand brushing on Terry's bicep as he rested the back of his head on his abdomen. Pepper suddenly turned serious and said, "Not at all, I mean, he pretended to be weak again so that Terry would help him stay up." Max burst out of the room, rushed towards me, and then hugged me forcefully. "Thank God. You're still in one piece. For now," I replied before she separated and slapped me right in the wound. "Ow. Why did you do that?" I asked in astonishment. "That's for being stupid. I know I made fighting bad guys look cool, but I have nothing to lose." "You have. We'll go back home, right now," Pepper added solemnly. "All right," I replied after I was bewildered for a bit. Then, I turned to the detectives and asked, "If I just left right now, will it be bad for you guys?" "No. Not at all," Terry replied with a smile. "You should go back. Your family must be worried for you." I sighed, knowing fully well that they were lying. "All right then, I will go home right now." I waved goodbyes to the detectives before entering the suite. "Where's Selena and Vanessa?" I asked. "Huh? I completely forgot about them," Max replied. As I went to check on them, it turned out that the both of them were still sleeping. It shook them to the core when they heard about the full story on our way to the airport. And this time, I brought Max back with me. Randall was stranded in New York again, which made him want to cry. Pepper tried not to talk to me about anything, but I could see how many people were calling him during our flight home. "Oh, Detective Rosa is calling me." Is she the primary in the investigation?" I muttered, confused as to why Rosa was the one contacting me, especially since Jake and Amy were the ones who have my number. "Hola." I picked up the phone. Rosa was silent for a while, and then decided to ignore my greeting. "Your blood results come back." "Were you drugged by those men while you were captured?" I was confused, and then I suddenly remembered that I had smoked some at the party last night. Even if the effects had worn off shortly, those chemicals would still show up 2 to 3 days later. "Oh yeah. They totally drugged me," I said to Rosa, causing Pepper to panic and almost fainted again. Selena exclaimed, "You were drugged," while Vanessa looked at me with concern. Max grinned and asked, "Did they give you the good stuff?" I mouthed the word, "last night" blunt to the girls, and all of them caught the meaning instantly. Rosa was silent and then she said, "All right then. I'll call you if we have more information." "Wait. Are you guys okay? If you guys want, I could put in a few words to the commissioner's office." "No. We're not in trouble at all. Get home safe. Put your phone into flight mode," Rosa replied curtly before she cut the call in a hurry. General POV. In the 99 precinct, the deputy commissioner was fuming as he sat at the captain's desk. The 4 detectives involved in the case were standing in front of him, and were disciplined. "But sir, he's a minor, and a victim of a traumatic experience." We feel strongly that he needs to be with his guardian, Sergeant Terry Jeffords tried to explain, but the Deputy Commissioner John Kelly stood up and shouted to his face, "He's a celebrity first before he's a child." If you know how much fire there is cooking the entire NYPD police department, then you might understand me. His crazy fans are lodging complaints. People are asking, why didn't we give him a security escort even knowing about the threat to his life? How in the hell did he manage to get kidnapped underneath our nose? And people are campaigning for you four to get fired. Now tell me, how should I settle all of this, when the kid is not right here right now? Jake sighed in frustration, barely hiding back his retort. Suddenly, Captain Raymond Holt entered the office. "Pardon me for interrupting, but I have been listening to the reprimand, and I have to step in and speak up for these detectives here." "What?" The Deputy Commissioner furrowed his brows in disbelief. Even the rest of the detectives couldn't believe their ears. What they did, although it was impractical for the NYPD, was acted with the citizens' interest in their mind. They said it before, the kid is just a minor. He's a barely 15 years old kid who was drugged, kidnapped, shot at, physically and emotionally abused by a group of highly violent men. Holt explained calmly to the deputy. What he needed wasn't to be thrown into the political arena, or to be placed with the responsibility of saving the NYPD, right after undergoing a traumatic event. He needs to go home, and the detectives here saw that. He added. The deputy sighed and then yelled again, "So, what are we supposed to do right now?" "Tell the public the truth," Raymond replied, shocking the deputy. "Are you crazy? I believe that is our best course of action at the moment." The attack happened in a short span of time. We had worked with the little information we have. And then what? We lost the kid because we let some intern kid dig around the evidence phone? The deputy interjected in anger. Amy spoke up instinctively, "Sir, if I may say something." Although Abby was an intern, she had worked very professionally. And she managed to do a job that would take the other specialist half a day to finish in just half an hour. Jake added too as he wanted to back up Amy. "Silent. I don't want to hear one more word from you guys," the deputy said. "All of you have to get yourself ready for a disciplinary review." "But sir," Terry stopped him. "Look, I am at the top of the command line in the precinct right now when our captain falls into a coma. Let me take responsibility for all of these." Sarge-Rosa, Jake, and Amy called out. "Enough. All of you guys were only working under my order, and you have nothing to do with it." "Jake!" Suddenly, a shrill voice called out to Jake from outside of the office. "Gina?" Jake turned in confusion. As he saw her, he asked, "What are you doing here?" "Citizens aren't allowed," the deputy spoke, but Gina held her palm to him, stopping him from saying anything. "Shoo, old dinosaur. I have an important question to ask the detectives here. How are you guys feeling? When you are now hailed as heroes, for saving a helpless, hot teenager from the clutches of the terrorists?" "Gina, what are you talking about?" Jake asked in confusion, and at the same time he tried to push Gina out of the room. "I know I said the interview is today, but we are in the middle of something serious right now." "Interview for what?" Raymond asked. Jake was a bit hesitant and he mumbled, "Interview for a desk receptionist." "Hold on. You? Gina." She corrected the deputy's words instantly, causing Raymond to be impressed. "Yeah. Gina. What did you say before? They are being hailed as a hero?" Gina chuckled derisively as if insulting the deputy. "Yes. Edward Newgate, the kid you were so worried about, tweeted about it all. He said that without Sergeant Terry Jeffords and Detective Rosa Diaz, he would have died before he got kidnapped. He also asked his fans to call off the witch hunt on those detectives as they are his savior and the only reason he's still alive today. He's calling for a press conference to explain about the matter at 6 o'clock today, in his company building in California. Jake, you need to get me a ticket and let me enter the press conference so that I can give him a hug, telling him that he has been very strong in dealing with the snowball life had thrown at him." Gina added. The deputy was speechless when he heard about Edward's decision. "I don't know whether this is a good thing or a bad thing for us." Raymond said, "He managed to get me to watch music television, MTV. For the first time in my life last night when he invited the Philharmonics with him, and managed to concoct a beautiful orchestra rendition of his mainstream song. So I strongly believe that if he decided to conduct a press conference, it would have been meticulously planned out, and it would be nothing but beneficial to these detectives." Raymond turned to the 4 detectives and said, "Seeing how he regards you guys as his savior, and wants to get the heat away from you, he's holding you guys in a positive light. Do you guys have a good rapport?" Jake was confused, but still replied, "Well, we did vibe out when we were discussing about the Die Hard films, a legendary masterpiece of all times." "Jake!" Rosa stopped him. "Right. Sorry. We do have a rapport," Jake replied simply. The media coverage about the entire incident was still going strong even when Edward had already returned to California. The surrounding entertainment buildings were covered with fans, holding up banners to support Edward and to cheer him up from his traumatic event. Rosa saw the news coverage of the event and muttered, "I don't like this at all. I feel like we're using him." Terry nodded and said, "I feel the same way. I feel all dirty inside." Jake smiled, "Why are you guys feeling so dumps in the dumps? We're practically heroes. I mean, we are heroes every day, but it's not a usual thing to get people asking if we want to sell our movie rights. And to answer that question, not if." "Did you just say dumps in the dumps?" Amy interjected. "Don't ruin my vibe, Amy. Come on." Jake protested. He then mumbled, "I miss Charles." The room fell into a hushed silence as Edward approached the podium, his bandaged arm and bruised face evident to everyone present. The flashes of cameras filled the air, capturing the image of a resilient young man. "You know, earlier in the day, I was thinking that if I needed to hold a press conference, it would be to talk about my achievement in the 2009 MTV Awards, how me, a newcomer, managed to snatch up 3 of the awards. But life does have a certain way to make your day even more special," Edward said with a chuckle as he spoke to the microphone. He pointed to the reporter who was raising her arms up. "Yes. You." The blonde reporter with thick glasses and curly hair asked, "Can you explain to us what happened? I mean, it's all covered up in the news." "Is that really the question you want to ask?" Edward joked, pretending to be confused, which made the reporters laugh. The reporters there were vetted by the company and were all professionals, therefore there weren't any questions that were damaging to his reputation or were too much for him to answer. Edward talked about the detectives, how Terry and Rosa laid down their lives to save him, Jake and Amy who investigated who he was and saved him from the kidnappers. "A lot of you guys keep saying that they need to be held accountable. But they submitted their hunch to their captain, and when they didn't get any support, they still went on and tried to save me on their own. They are good guys, and good cops. TV and movies made us believe that all police are bad, but there are still cops who keep true to the words serve and protect out there. I am really glad that I have met them. So for Captain Raymond Holt of the 99 Precinct, Sergeant Terry Jeffords of the 99 Precinct, Detective Rosa Diaz of the 99 Precinct, Detective Jake Peralta of the 99 Precinct, and lastly, Detective Amy Santiago of the 99 Precinct, and all of the other police officers involved, thank you for saving my life." Numerous camera flashes illuminated the entire room as Edward thanked the detectives. In New York, the detectives were confused. Jake muttered, "Captain Raymond Holt of the 99 Precinct?" Edward was tired at this moment and had forgotten the tiny detail. But his words would soon come true because the NYPD decided to make Raymond Holt the replacement captain because of the high numbers of commendation from the fans, just a few hours later. The press conference continued. "Rumor has it that you had fought off 11 men on your own and could make it out from the kidnappers by yourself. Is that true?" Edward responded jokingly, "Actually, I ambushed 2, knocked out 7 others with sleeping gas, and kicked 1 guy in the nuts. So, I only fought off 1 guy who wanted to kill me. I'm not that awesome." He added, "That guy also said that he wants to sell me off to an island where I would be the rich and wealthy people's sex slave, but he didn't tell me all of the details. I knew I had to break out of there before the ship came, which was 5 minutes later when the cops came to rescue me. Where is the island? One of the reporters asked curiously. Edward shrugged and said convincingly, I only heard they said it's in the Caribbean Sea, Little St. James Island if I'm not mistaken. Epstein Island. Who knows what's going on at the island there? Any other questions? The island would soon be investigated by the media, and the expose would come out sooner in this world. Are you sure that Kay didn't have anything to do with this? A fat reporter asked. Edward shook his head and replied, I'm sure. To do such a thing, the perpetrators needed to have basic cognitive skills. Kay doesn't have that kind of ability. The reporters laughed at Edward's snide. His words did take a lot of the flames away from Kay, which made the guy secretly grateful that he decided to let go of the insult at the press conference. Will you sell this experience as a movie, right? One reporter asked jokingly. No. Unless I could be played by Ryan Gosling, I wouldn't sell my experience as a movie, right? Edward replied playfully, which made the reporters laugh again. One of the reporters, who was the Asian reporter who interviewed Edward before, asked, You're smiling and joking around, so does the experience don't bother you that much? Honestly, it does bother me. I don't think that I've been that scared in my life before. Edward said with a serious tone after thinking for a while. Oh, but you've been so brave in surviving this ordeal. She added. Edward nodded and said, Personally, I believe that bravery isn't about the absence of fear. You could be fearful and be brave at the same time. If you have fear, and you do it anyway, that's bravery for me. The quote would soon be ingrained into a lot of people's minds. You let your fans evacuate first before you do. Why? Another reporter asked. They are my cuties. I don't want anything to happen to them because of me. Edward replied with a chuckle. The fans who were watching the press conference started swooning, and became obsessively in love with him. He answered all of the questions and made things clear for the public. He could keep his silence about the whole matter, but in doing so, it would make his life tiring from all of the public attention. Ironically, after he explained about the matter and stood in front of the media, the attention people have on the matter slowly disappeared. Are your injuries serious? No, it's just a scratch. But I did have to get 2 stitches. So hopefully it doesn't leave a scar. What did Taylor respond when she knew you were kidnapped? How should I know? I was kidnapped? Edward looked at the reporter asking the question like he was stupid. What does Vanessa Hudgens have to do with all of this? She's sleeping the entire time, so I don't think she had anything much to do in this. What did your dad say after you were kidnapped? He told me to break off the neck of others who wanted to do the same. Can you? Try, and you shall find out. The press conference went on for another half hour before it ended. That same night, Taylor's new album, Fearless, was released according to the schedule. The sales were explosive, and people kept relating the album's name to Edward. As Edward went back to the office, Ted and Camila gave him a huge hug as soon as he walked through the door. The Dunphys, Mitch, Cam and Lily, Jay, Gloria and Manny, his friends, the ship's crew and employees, Entertain employees, Harvey, Pepper, Max, Selena and Vanessa, even our DJ, were all there at the office, and they shouted, "Congrats on winning the awards." They blew off the party poppers and whistled for Edward as they brought 4 cakes to him. 1 cake for each award, and oh, this one is a special cake that the children had made for you. Cam explained. The last cake was a green frosting cake. It was clear that it was made by unskilled bakers, and there was a drawing of a stickman Hulk, choking the bad guy on top of it. "I drew this." Luke took credit confidently despite Alex and Haley looking hesitant. Edward was in disbelief before he smiled softly. He looked at the people all around and said, "Thank you everyone. I love it." Chapter 217, Unearned Achievement. Edward POV. As I was on my way home, I reminisced about the time I approached our DJ at the party. "Why are you here?" I asked, narrowing my gaze at him. He gasped dramatically, placing a hand over his chest and opening his mouth in mock offense. After a moment, he decided to drop the act and scoffed as he couldn't trick me. "Did you run away from somewhere?" I questioned again. RDJ, munching on a piece of green cake, replied with a mischievous grin, "Next time, make sure there's going to be an Iron Man cake too. That Ruffalo sure knows how to ruffle my feathers." I exclaimed in realization, "Ah. So, is this about the meet and greet? Your first meeting with the cast? Have you already started filming?" With a proud expression, RDJ casually draped his arm over my shoulder. "Yes, that's right. It was incredibly boring, so I had to escape." The twin Chrissies kept bonding over their workouts. But still, I had the best arm there. He smiled and added, "I overheard some staff mentioning they were coming here to buy a software program from you. So I decided to hitch a ride. The idea was to ensure there's someone with a rapport, so you won't overcharge us, the now bankrupt company who was bought out by your nemesis, Disney." I couldn't resist a playful response. "Well, now I'm going to triple the cost." Reacting with mock outrage, RDJ rubbed his goatee and exclaimed, "Hey! Marvel still hasn't got the money yet." As I reflected on RDJ's true intentions for being at the party, I couldn't help but be grateful. I had seen him during the press conference earlier, seemingly anxious yet determined. It became clear that he had come with the intention of offering support if I struggled during my interview. It wasn't because he doubted my abilities, but rather because he understood firsthand the challenges that come with such high-pressure situations. He has had his fair share of struggles before. Being a celebrity meant existing for the public, not for oneself. It didn't matter if you were dealing with personal struggles or inner turmoil, you had to maintain a character facade in front of the camera. And he was worried that I couldn't take it. Why would he even care about the software or the budget of the studio? He's just an actor, not a part of the company. Then, I guess after the press conference was over, he saw the cakes and decided to invite himself in. "By the way, how did you fight that guy? Do you want me to teach you a few moves?" RDJ asked playfully. I punched him in the balls. "You can teach me if you want, but in sparring, you need to know that is my go-to move." He covered up his crotch area instantly and scoffed. He signed an autograph for Luke before going back to his house. The filming for the first Avengers movie would start in a few days, and he invited me to come watch the first filming session later. Returning to the present, I immediately went up to my room and laid down on my bed with a tired groan after the day was finally over. "Damn, I'm still hungry," I said as my stomach gurgled again. I kept getting hungry all day today. I wonder if I am in a period of rapid growth right now. Or is it that my now go-to response to stress is binge eating? But I don't want to move, I thought whiningly as I squirmed on the bed, making a mess out of the sheets. The door to my room swung open, catching my attention. I lifted my head slightly from the pillow to see Haley casually entering and plopping down at the edge of my bed. "Hey," she greeted cheerfully. "I still don't understand what happened this morning." "Because you were sleeping the entire time," I scolded, but couldn't help but chuckle. Haley giggled and then proceeded to check the wound on my arm before brushing her hand gently against my bruised face. They almost made you ugly." "It's going to take more than one punch to take away my looks," I replied, rolling my eyes playfully. I reached out and pulled her to my side, causing her to yelp and giggle. As she laid down, facing me, she asked with concern, "Is it scary?" "Nah, more annoying than scary," I replied honestly. "Really? You're not lying?" she asked, her worried expression searching my face. I shook my head and reassured her, "No, I'm not lying." She stared into my eyes, seeking confirmation of my words, before finally breathing a sigh of relief. "And what about that island?" she asked curiously. I burst into laughter and said, "Oh yeah, that. I was just messing around. I wanted to see if I could make the media sweep this whole thing under the rug." Haley looked thoroughly confused, but I decided not to explain the full context of the matter to her. It was better for her not to know the full extent of the country's degeneracy. We continued to talk for a while until my stomach growled again. Haley couldn't help but burst into laughter. Why are you still hungry? We just ate. Oh yeah, you need to go back home early and talk to a lot of people. Poor baby. Do you want me to get you something to eat? I already have my snack right here, I replied, playfully kissing her on the neck. She giggled in response and said, wait here. I'll bring you some food. Nah, I'll come with you, I insisted. Together, we made our way to the kitchen and prepared some food. I cooked up some instant noodles, which we shared in a large bowl. Oh, I forgot to ask. Did you sneak out? I inquired, slurping my noodles. Haley, in the midst of chewing, tried to reply with her mouth still open but ended up choking slightly. After swallowing, she finally responded, I was sneaking out, but then I realized my mom hadn't come inside yet. I met her at the door. And then? I asked, intrigued. She guessed I was coming here, and she just let me, Haley replied, a touch of surprise in her voice. That's way out of character for her, I commented, feeling a bit puzzled. I know, right? Haley agreed, shaking her head in disbelief. Then, I saw people from the ship here. The crewmates? I asked, surprised. Yeah. They are camping out around here, and chasing away all of the reporters who wanted to sneak around. I guess that's why my mom let me go. It's safe. Feeling grateful for their attention, I smiled and said sarcastically, of course. That's the only reason that would make sense. I groaned in a haze of hunger as I struggled to make my way across the dimly lit hallway corridor. Each step felt heavy, and my stomach clenched with an insatiable desire for food. Beads of sweat formed on my forehead, a testament to the intensity of my craving. Suddenly, my Aunt Camila stood before me, her concerned expression etched with worry. Ed, are you okay? She asked, her voice filled with genuine concern. But in the distorted haze of my hunger, her features began to shift and twist, transforming into a talking steamed bun, its chocolate-flavored aroma filling the air. Ed? She asked worriedly. Hungry! I exclaimed, my desperation taking hold as I lunged forward and sank my teeth into the bun's neck. The air filled with a blood-curdling scream as the bun began to bleed, leaving trails of chocolate oozing from the wound. But as the taste of blood and chocolate filled my mouth, the scene abruptly shattered, and I jolted awake from the dream. Ed! Wake up! You're late to school! My aunt shouted, banging loudly on my bedroom door. Her attire, a white tank top and shorts, gave her an aura reminiscent of the main female characters in sitcoms like Penny or Rachel Green. The kind with things protruding out of their shirt that could captivate the attention of male viewers before they even realized they were invested in the story. No chocolate bun, I'm not going to school today, I replied groggily, wiping the drool from my chin. What bun? Oh, right. It's probably not the best idea for you to go to school after all that happened, my aunt said, her voice filled with concern. Do you want some breakfast? I can go out and buy something for you. She came in and sat on the edge of the bed before checking my arm. Yeah, Pano chocolate and a latte, please, I replied. She held my chin and forcefully turned my head for her to see the bruise. She groaned and said, did they put ice on it yesterday? I wonder what's going to keep your fans now that your looks are gone. I rolled my eyes and said, I could sing like the Phantom of the Opera, or with a box for a head and people are still going to like me. Go now. You sitting here is making me hungry. She didn't get what I was saying, but she giggled and went out anyway. I checked my phone before seeing a message from Harvey. Oh, we got in contact with Riot Games. Nice! I exclaimed. Robin, is there any action from the media after yesterday? I asked after I was done checking and replying to the messages. The number of media outlets that are covering the story were down by 77% after the press conference yesterday. Percentage of them denying the island existed is 15%, and the percentage that is trying to smear your image as a lunatic is 2%. Robin replied. I raised an eyebrow as Robin delivered the latest update on the media coverage surrounding the kidnapping incident. The significant drop in media outlets covering the story proved my action was correct, and I felt a sense of relief. 77% decrease in coverage? That's quite a drop, I remarked, my voice tinged with surprise. And only 15% denying the existence of the island? I expected that number to be higher. I chuckled. But there is a more important piece of information. Robin added. What is it? I replied. It seemed that this morning, the president of the country was talking about your incident. Wait. What? What did he say? I asked, shocked. He didn't touch on the matter of the island, but he commented about the K incident, and a short sentence about how Sir Edward's action had recovered a national secret at the time of the abduction, and he is going to be presented with a Medal of Valor. Damn it! I cursed angrily. Afternoon. After having lunch, my dad and I followed Phil to look at houses in areas with better security. Phil was dressed in a suit, as was my dad, while I opted for a more casual attire, wearing a plain hoodie and cargo pants. As we prepared to begin our house hunting adventure, Phil began suggesting the first house of the day, mentioning that it was located in Beverly Hills. Nope, I interjected quickly, throwing my hand in the air and shaking it to emphasize my disagreement. My dad and Phil turned to look at me, surprise evident on their faces. Phil raised an eyebrow, clearly curious about my objection. However, he didn't ask anything and just took out his list. All right. So no houses inside the stereotypical celebrity culture area. I nodded and said, I guess you didn't become California's top real estate agent for nothing. Not California, just our district. Phil corrected me and said disappointedly, I still can't beat out Esther Rosenblatt by a large margin. All right. We will go to West Hollywood. After a short 20-minute ride, we arrived at a block-like house. Welcome to this extraordinary bunker house. A one-of-a-kind property that offers unparalleled security and peace of mind. Nestled discreetly within a serene location, this home has been thoughtfully designed to provide the utmost protection and resilience in any situation. Phil said as he opened the door. The inside of the house was like every other modern house, but the walls were made of strong composite cement. Step inside and experience a world of safety and comfort. The reinforced concrete walls and advanced security systems ensure that Ed is shielded from potential threats. The underground construction and robust materials offer excellent resistance to severe weather conditions and even potential natural disasters. My dad was nodding along in satisfaction while listening to Phil's description while I was becoming more and more dumbfounded. The state-of-the-art ventilation and air filtration systems maintain a fresh and healthy environment, even in extended periods of isolation. Wait. Stop. I interjected quickly. I looked at both guys in disbelief and asked, why are you showing me a nuclear bunker? I don't know if it can survive a nuke, but I guess if any house could, it would be this house. Phil said casually. Phil. I called him. My dad replied, I did tell Phil that security is my main concern. Nothing is too much in terms of safety. This house looks nice. We should take it. Hells no. I vetoed the house immediately. Then, we went to the next house still located in West Hollywood. We didn't even get out of the car when I saw it was shaped like the pentagram, and was built as a bunker too. Next. The third house was inspired by French designs, but still maintained the structure of an American house. It has 3 stories, plus the attic. You can see that it is inside a guarded area. And most importantly, there's a bunker in the basement. Phil said. Good, we will take this one. No. I need the basement for my lab. Besides, this house has no pool. And very, very isolated. I need to walk 20 minutes just to get to another house in the neighborhood. I rejected the house with a tired voice. That's why there are transport services to get around. Phil said. Neen. I stressed out. The next house we went to see intrigued me. It was a picturesque retreat with a stunning pool area. Inside the main house, there were 7 spacious bedrooms and 6 well-appointed bathrooms. The guest room was also in a different wing of the house. However, it is an hour away from our place right now. I sighed. What's wrong with that? My dad asked. Then, how can I go to Phil's house in the morning? How can my friends come by and hang out? I said. Phil, a bit touched, almost teared up, all right. It's fine. Ed has his preferences. We will go to take a look at the last house, and if that doesn't satisfy you, then we can try again another day. My phone rang before we could get to the car. I checked the ID and it was from Pepper. I picked up the call immediately and greeted, "What's up, Peps?" Edward. Where are you? You better not run around by yourself and get into trouble again. My poor heart couldn't take it. Pepper said. Your heart is in poor condition. You should run on the treadmill sometime. I said. Pepper scoffed and scolded, Are you fat-shaming me? Rather than fat-shaming, I don't want to lose you so early at the prime of your life. I said with a slight chuckle. Pepper was speechless and then he spoke about why he was calling. He needed confirmation about where to receive the medal, in California or in NYC. I grimaced and said, Can't I not go? I wish I could say yes. But from the information I got, it seems that the president wants to give you the medal himself. So you have to go. Damn it. Seriously. Let me fucking move on from this shit. I was cursing to myself, then I realized it could be misconstrued as I was cursing Pepper. Sorry, Peps. That wasn't aimed at you. Even Phil and my dad were startled when they saw me blowing up. Well, I know. Pepper scoffed. After a while, he said placatingly, I wish I could let time move faster for you, Ed. But I really can't do anything without it being damaging to you. I sighed and said, It's fine. I don't blame you. Then, I changed the subject. Oh, by the way, where is Max staying? She's in a hotel somewhere. Why? Pepper replied. I'm bored looking at houses with my dad all day. I replied. But honestly, I wanted Max for another reason. 420 reasons to be exact. My mood was irreparably damaged by the call that we had to stop looking at houses today and went back to our old house. Paparazzi and fans were staying in front of the house as the car pulled in. They almost swarmed to the car if not for the security I had hired to protect me around the house area. Even Taylor couldn't get to the house she bought next to mine because of all the craziness. 5 days passed by in a hurry. The impact from the incident finally eased up while I was at my house, hiding from the crowd of fans. In the 5 days, I had opened a few of Taylor's tour concerts, took a picture with the president in which I channeled the humorous spirit of Michael Scott from The Office. I couldn't resist recreating the iconic expression of I don't know how I got here alongside the president in the picture, which made a lot of memes come out. Simultaneously, I also launched my image editing software, which proved to be even more versatile. With versions available for both PC and mobile devices, users could effortlessly enhance and transform their photos on various platforms. The software's affordability and user-friendly nature made it accessible to a wide audience, resulting in a surge of sales that revitalized my once-depleted finances. It's basically a mixture of Canva, PicArt, plus Photoshop. And my fans just bought it because they wanted to get my how-to video on getting started. After a week, the attention died down as the world would move with or without my involvement. I could finally live my life back to normal again. Chapter 218, Retreat. Edward POV. 27 days left before Halloween, I muttered, checking the date as I rose early in the morning on the 4th of October. Slowly, I descended from the luxurious, oversized bed in the expansive bedroom. The room had French windows that bathed the space in gentle sunlight, while a butler, dressed in a distinguished black suit, complete with a monocle and a mustache reminiscent of the Monopoly Man, opened the curtains for me. You sure are excited for Halloween, Mr. Newgate, the butler remarked jokingly, approaching my side with a knowing smile. As the paparazzi's relentless harassment intensified following the president's decision to award me a medal, I found myself seeking refuge and hiding away in one of Pepper's mother's vacation homes. Nestled in Altadena, a serene location near the Angeles National Forest and adjacent to the historic Cobb Estate, this retreat became my sanctuary. Well, I've never done trick or treating before, so it'll be my first time. Of course, I'm excited about it, I said as I put on the white shirt and pants that the butler had given me. The outfit, giving me a touch of old money style, satisfied me greatly. I looked at the butler with a complicated look and said, I didn't want a butler when I first got here. But now, I don't think I can go back to how I lived before. You flatter me, sir, the butler said with a genial smile before saying, breakfast is ready. Your father and your aunt are already there, waiting for you. And Max, he sighed suddenly as he mentioned the last name. Thanks, James, I replied with a kind smile. Then, both of us went out of the room. I descended a spiral staircase from the third floor to the ground floor, creeped out by the oil paintings of the old lords as I did so. The house exuded a Renaissance charm, with elements of a castle-like structure that left me in awe upon my first sighting. While it lacked an outdoor pool, it compensated with indoor pools which added a sense of modernity in it. That was the only thing that was added later to the place when Eve bought it. The mansion spanned an impressive 24,000 square feet and boasted a sprawling field, garden, and lawn that stretched out in front of it. I've been jogging on the estate for 2 days since I got here, after the day I met with the president. To ensure my security and privacy, Eve, overprotective grandmother, had assembled a team of 30 armed guards strategically stationed throughout the mansion. Her generosity knew no bounds, as she not only offered me a refuge but also extended the offer of permanent ownership of the house should I decide to marry her grandchild. Just so you know, the offer still stands, James whispered to me as he saw my mesmerized eyes. I was jolted out of my imagination. Stop trying to convince me to marry, I said with a grumble before walking into the dining room. My dad and my aunt were looking awkward as the staff served food on the table, but their eyes glinted in excitement as they saw me. Morning, Ed, my dad greeted me. Mornin', Dot, my aunt said as she stuffed her mouth with food. James coughed twice, reminding Camila about her manner. She grimaced and said, "This is not okay too?" Behaving properly is the key to becoming a classy young lady, James said. I don't need to become a classy lady, my aunt asked with irritation and confusion. I snide to my dad, she knew not to add young there. At least she has some self-realization. My aunt shot a glare at me as she heard all of it. I flinched and waved at her with a smile before casually putting butter on my pancakes. Suddenly, Max sauntered into the dining room, clad in nothing but a frilly black bikini. The old wooden floor bore the evidence of her recent dip in the pool, with wet footprints leaving splashes of moisture in her wake. Her bold entrance immediately elicited a grimace from James. Now, this is an irredeemable young lady, James muttered under his breath, unable to hide his disapproval. Max, undeterred by James' disapproving gaze, greeted him with a cheerful tone. Good morning to you too, James, she replied, her voice brimming with unwavering cheerfulness. She cackled and said, glad to see your face is still sour today. It's only sour when it's in your presence, Max. I shot her a gesture to come sit next to me. Is this a scheme to stare at my chest while you eat? She asked playfully. Of course, I replied with a mischievous smile. Why else would I want you to sit next to me? That's rude. I have other qualities besides my chest. Her eyes glinted mischievously, like my butt. She added jokingly. James coughed twice, but Max ignored her, making the old man fumed. I burst into laughter, and after breakfast, Max went to the company, hitching a ride with my old man, leaving only my aunt and me inside the estate. But as Camila couldn't take the nagging, she also went out to check on a barely open store in Calexico, her store, which is almost a 2-hour drive from here. Why don't you take the chopper? I said, pointing at the helicopter landing side. No, I'd rather drive for hours than spend any more time here, she replied firmly. I laughed and waved her off, saying, goodbye, chocolate bread. Perplexed, she mumbled, what is that? Why do you keep calling me that, before huffing away, leaving me chuckling to myself. I checked the time and said to the butler, James, I'm going to do a live session on my Instagram, can you help me set it up? Sure, in which room do you want me to get the equipment ready, sir? James asked dutifully. The kitchen will be fine. Wait, or should I do it in the piano room? I mused for a while. Oh, by the way, have you ever eaten a Japanese souffle cheesecake before? I asked curiously. I have, sir. As part of my butler training, I needed to be familiar with cuisines from all over the world, James replied proudly. Great, I smiled. Then, James, I need the ingredients to make the cake, on my own. On your own? James questioned, unsure about my request. Yeah, I need to make it before Sage and Taylor come here, I explained. Pepper would stop by after Taylor's final concert in LA, with Harvey tagging along to discuss a few things before Taylor's tour across the country starts. As for Sage, there were a few tests that were conducted at school last week, but unfortunately, I couldn't attend any of them. As a result, Sage, the principal's reluctant designated representative, was instructed to bring me the test. I understand, sir, James acknowledged before he walked away to gather the necessary ingredients. General POV. Good afternoon, everyone. Edward waved to the camera as his Instagram live session started. From 5 viewers, it jumped to hundreds and to over 1,000 viewers in less than 30 seconds, and the numbers kept going upwards. As the live session's schedule was posted on his official fan page, numerous fans were flocking into the broadcast. Lily, hi Edward. Heart, heartsuit. Annie Edison, hi Edward. Heart, heartsuit red heart growing heart. Haley, hey. Where are you hiding? I sneezing face. Edward saw Haley's name popped up amongst his early fans and he burst into laughter. Where am I? I had to go into a retreat because my house is getting swarmed. I'm staying at my grandmother's house. Lily, Edward has another grandma? Flushed face. Annie, this is not in the Wisconsin ranch. So maybe. Jenna, bring us with you? Pleading face. Enid, RAWR. Edward is a vampire. Vampire emoji werewolf dot emoji vampire wolf face. Enid, don't speak nonsense. Edward scolded her immediately in a flat tone, causing her to spam dejected dog emoji. The live session went on normally after that with some Q&A with the fans. Edward read the questions as he answered them. Are your wounds hurting? No. It's healing pretty well. Edward folded his sleeves to show the stitches to his fans. Margot R. asked, is the story we heard true? Well, for most part. Some of it was exaggerated. Edward replied casually. Max made a sudden entrance into the kitchen, her attire drawing immediate attention. She sported a black tank top that seemed a size too small, accentuating her figure, along with a split-side bikini outerwear floral skirt that revealed her fair legs. Hey, what do you need me for? Wait, are you recording? Max asked with a surprised expression as she saw the camera in front of her. Edward smiled and said, yeah. I need you to help me bake a cake. Oh. All right then. Max replied casually. Jenna, who is SHE? Fuming, confounded face. Enid, another big-boobed girl. Blowing hot air through nose. Emoji, face with steam from nose. Face with steam from nose. Annie, is this your type? I may have a chance. Max? Edward looked at Max, who was also looking at him. Then, both of them smiled and replied at the same time, she's I'm his half-sister. As if a bomb was dropped into the chat group, it exploded with numerous questions from the fans about Edward's family genealogy. Let's get started. Edward said as he wore an apron. He handed one to Max, who refused to wear it. I'm more comfortable in this, she said. You don't think that only rich people wear an apron or something, right? Edward asked jokingly. Max smiled and retorted, that's right. We poor people are already comfortable being all dirty and sticky. Are you sure that's for all poor people? Or are you confusing it with your Tuesday night? Max gasped in amazement and said, you really are my brother. I'll do the cream cheese, you do the meringue. Edward said as he took out a few bowls. Max needed to beat the egg whites until it became foamy, and she giggled as she did it. Edward smiled and turned to her. "Are you censoring yourself from saying something?" Max cackled as she said, "I had to. Your audiences are young kids." The prep work was done in under 30 minutes, and as the cake was placed in the oven, Edward said to the fans, "We have to bake it for 70 minutes to see the results. I'll post a video of the cake on my feed when it's done." Enid, NOO. Don't end the live. Jenna, I want TOC cake. Cameron, let us see the cake. Abraham, is Max single? Way out of your league, Abraham. Edward said as he chuckled at the audience's reactions. It's not like I don't want to do the live session any longer. But, I am preparing for a surprise, so I can't drag the time. Edward said while flashing a conflicted look. Is this about the surprise for Taylor? Max blurted out. Edward was surprised and he turned to Max immediately. She covered her mouth as if saying she shouldn't have said that, and Edward turned back to the live session with a nervous laugh. All right. You guys. Promise me not to spoil it for her, okay? If she knew that there would be a surprise waiting, it's no longer going to be a surprise, right? Luke Dunphy, HUI. Where's my cake? Edward shut down the live session the moment that Luke had begged his mother to create an account for him so that he could comment on Edward's feed. He soon had to wait for a few more days before he could finally satisfy his desires. Good job, Max. I said as I high-fived with her. Then, she asked nervously, is it okay for me to say that? I'm sorry that I blurted it out. It doesn't matter anyway. The surprise isn't about the cake. We didn't give away anything else in the live session. Edward said with a shrug. The party is still on? Max asked excitedly. SHHHH. Yeah, the party is still on. Edward replied with a whisper, but with similar enthusiasm. Max quickly turned around to check and see if the old butler was in the vicinity. Luckily for her, he was out in the garden, tending to some tree sculptures, oblivious to the scheme brewing inside the estate. 20 minutes after the conclusion of the live session, Miss Anna, also known as Sage, arrived at the mansion. She was dressed in a pencil skirt and a fluffy white sweater, and her jaw dropped in awe at the sheer size of the estate before her. Hey, Edward greeted cheerfully as he approached the main door to welcome the teacher. James, observing Anna's striking beauty, couldn't help but feel a twinge of apprehension, concerned that she might become a rival for his master's grandchildren. Sage snapped out of her daze and greeted Edward. Hi. What is all of this? How can you afford this? No, Edward hurriedly replied. I didn't buy this house. I haven't found another place to move into yet. He took hold of Sage's hand and gently pulled her inside. Come on, I'll show you around. This place is amazing. Edward brought her to sightsee for 20 minutes before James coughed twice as he saw the two of them were getting lost of time. He said, Sir, shouldn't you finish the test first before continuing? It is almost 2 o'clock. What's wrong with 2 o'clock? Edward asked in confusion. James flinched a bit, but he quickly collected himself. I must have made a mistake, sir. But this old beardo is right. We should do the test first. Sage said. All right then. Edward agreed easily and released Sage's hand. He placed his hand behind his head as he walked to the study where he would be tested there. James breathed in relief after seeing that Edward and Anna had gone. Old beardo? He muttered in disbelief as he suddenly noticed what the teacher had called him. Too easy, Edward remarked smugly as he handed his completed history paper to Sage, having finished writing his answers in less than 15 minutes. That's just for history. You have other subjects too, Sage reminded him. I know that, Edward replied with a smirk. Can't you just give me all of them at once? You know I'm going to get a perfect score in all of them anyway. Sage rolled her eyes, a mix of amusement and exasperation evident on her face. She placed all of the test papers on Edward's table, including math, sciences, language, geography, Spanish, and several other subjects that needed to be tested. Originally, Sage was scheduled to come for 3 days to administer the exams, but Edward wanted to complete them all in under 2 hours. While Edward was engrossed in his exams, Sage left him alone in the room as she could smell cheesecake, neglecting her duty to supervise him. This left James, the old butler, feeling perplexed. Is she really a teacher? James grumbled to himself, questioning Sage's professionalism. He decided to take over her role by discreetly watching Edward from a nearby window to ensure he wasn't cheating. However, James's efforts were in vain because Edward had never once attempted to cheat his way through any of the exams. In the kitchen, Max was shocked when she saw Anna suddenly appearing behind her when she was taking out the cheesecake from the oven. "You scared the bejesus out of me," Max said with irritation. Anna said casually, "Don't use his name in vain. That guy doesn't like that. This is Edward's cake, right?" "Yeah." "Oh, you must be his teacher." "Hi, I'm Max." She introduced herself. "Anna," Sage replied, her eyes glued on the cake. Max chuckled a bit and said, "Now I know why he wanted to make cheesecake for today. He wants to impress his gorgeous teacher." Anna shook her head and said, "That'll never happen. Edward has no interest in me, and he never will have." Max was shocked and she said, "Why? Did you used to be a man or something? If you were, then I must say, you have a really good doctor." Anna wasn't offended and said, "Nothing of the sort. He treats me like a family member. That's all." "Hey, he treats me like family too. But it doesn't stop him from ogling at these 2 treasure chests like a horny pirate," Max replied as she pushed her chest upwards. "We're not the same," Sage replied as she grabbed a fork and tried to taste the cake. But Max slapped her hand, making her taken aback. "Hands off. We need to wait for him until we can cut it," Max replied. "Oh, and by the way, your outfit is not really appropriate for this estate. I think you need to change." "Huh?" Sage was confused. "Change into what?" Back in the room, Edward raised his arms into the air and stretched as he finished the tests. "Ah. It's over," he mumbled. "Good job, sir. I've been watching you from the beginning, and I must say, you have the most brilliant mind I've ever seen." James entered and complimented Edward as he collected the papers. "Still not going to marry Denise?" Edward replied casually. "TSK." James clicked his tongue subtly, but Edward caught it and he burst into laughter. Sage re-entered the room after James had finished collecting the papers. "Young lady, I'll need to have a talk with you about professional work ethics, oh heavens." James's jaw dropped in disbelief as he saw Sage. "What, oh lord?" Edward turned to look into James's direction, and he saw Sage wearing a polka dot bikini and a long, translucent pink skirt as she walked towards him. After Sage claimed she needed to mark the history question paper, she requested James to leave the study, leaving her alone with Edward inside the room. Meanwhile, Max had discovered James's previous hiding spot and decided to observe from there, curious to see if Edward would show any signs of being flustered in the presence of his teacher. However, she was shocked to see Edward reacting like it was nothing. "Why are you wearing that?" Edward asked casually. Sage, who was being sensual without even trying to, marked the papers and said, "Max told me it's the tradition here." Edward thought for a bit, and decided to go along with the fabricated tradition. "Yeah. It's true. And I'm surprised you picked this one. Shouldn't you wear a grandmother's bathing suit or something?" Sage slapped Edward's head with a rolled-up question paper before she went back into grading them. "Oh, right. I wanted to ask you something," Sage said. "Sure. What is it?" Edward replied. Sage suddenly turned solemn and asked, "In the last few days, the president has been acting like a mad dog, and even exposed the entire degenerate island himself, even if he was among the list of clients who frequented it. He turned into a saint, and he's suddenly trying to clean out all of the filth in the government. Edward gulped his saliva as Sage stared into his eyes and asked, "Did you use your eye power on him?" Chapter 219, Surprise Gift. Part 1. Edward POV. Did you use your eye power on him? I averted my eyes from Sage. My index finger slowly tapped the armrest as I mulled my decision to answer. Yes. I replied, expecting a barrage of nagging from her. However, she unexpectedly was nodding as if the whole thing was normal. Why do you look so surprised? Do you think I'm going to get mad at you or anything? She asked. Kinda. I replied with a slight chuckle. Sage smiled softly and said, I don't care what you're going to do with your gifts. It is destined for you, not for me. But can I ask, why did you do it? Do you have any grudge with the president or something? I shook my head slightly and said, no. It's the opposite of that. He has a grudge with you? Sage asked, confused. I narrowed my eyes at her in disbelief before saying, not that. When I got kidnapped, do you know what I felt at that time? Sage listened and then gestured for me to go on. Scared, restless, nervous, I didn't feel any of those. Instead, I feel annoyed as fuck. I confessed. However, when I got back to see my friends and family, I saw that they were all extremely scared and nervous when they thought that something had happened to me. That's when I realized I wasn't behaving the way a normal person would in that type of situation. And that leads you to brainwashing the president? Sage added mischievously. My lips curled up as I replied, no. He's just a convenient guy for me to unload the burden. Besides, I didn't make him my servant or anything. I just planted the intention, do the right thing for the people onto his mind. And? Sage dragged her words. And, also I inserted some memories, I replied nervously and timidly. Sage was annoyed and retorted, you make him feel like he's the main character of a novel. Well yeah, that's how I know he's going to use his memories well. I said with a chuckle. Sage scowled and scolded me, don't laugh. This is not a laughing matter. Every day when the president wakes up, he will stand at the balcony to oversee the city, and broods like Batman. Insert Batman theme here asterisk. I nodded in satisfaction after hearing Sage's words. She grabbed a throw pillow with a $100,000 handmade golden throw pillow with a noble emblem on it and threw it on my face. Don't look so satisfied. What you did is going to cause a major change. That's fine. Because if the future that we're going to face is the same as the history in my past life, then I'd rather the president be Batman than to go through all of that again. I replied casually. President's cutscene. At night, President Obama stands at the balcony area of the White House, just outside of the Oval Office as he gazes into the city with a deep look. He mumbled with a deep voice. As I stand here, at the precipice of power, I carry with me a burden far greater than any that has come before. For I know what lies ahead, the trials and tribulations that await this nation. The weight of the future rests upon my shoulders, a future marred by uncertainty, division, and hardship. But I refuse to succumb to despair, for I hold a secret, a knowledge of what lies ahead. Vivid memories of true and false memories appeared inside his mind. The plague in 2020, the Civil War in 2025, World War III that turned the whole world into a desolate wasteland in 2030. The president gripped his hands tight until it almost bled. He, who has never struggled in despair before, had his whole world turned upside down when Edward made him feel every single struggle of the lowest bottom of the society in person. The president opened his arms as he felt the cold wind blowing in his face. In this brooding silence, I see the struggles that lie before us, the challenges that threaten to tear this country apart. I hear the cries of the forgotten, the whispers of those who have lost hope. But I will not stand idle, consumed by the darkness that looms. Instead, I vow to wield the power of this office to bring about change, to shape a future that is brighter, fairer, and more just. With the weight of foresight, I see the consequences of inaction, the consequences of complacency. I cannot allow that future to come to pass. I will fight for the marginalized, the voiceless, and the oppressed. I will champion equality, compassion, and progress. Together we know, I will make the whole country stand together. We will forge a path towards a future where every person, regardless of their background, has an opportunity to thrive. In the face of adversity, I will not be deterred. I will harness the power of this office, not for personal gain, but for the betterment of the people. I will challenge the status quo, confront the injustices that plague our society, and inspire a nation to rise above its limitations. This brooding determination fuels my resolve. I am the harbinger of change, the catalyst for a brighter tomorrow. I will rewrite the course of history, not for my own glory, but for the collective well-being of this great nation. Together, we will forge a destiny where hope prevails, progress thrives, and the future shines with promise. I am the President of the United States, armed with the knowledge of what lies ahead, and I vow to lead this nation towards a future that we, the people, deserve. The President turned and re-entered his office. But on his stoic face, his lips were twitching as if it wanted to curl up, but he stopped them with sheer force. The President thought secretly, I must have looked so cool before. Cutscene ends. Edward POV. Besides, I didn't make him think he was Batman. That was a matter of personal choice, I said with some laughter. My heart was filled with ease, but I was still unsure why. Maybe it was because the responsibility to avoid a dystopian future wasn't only mine to shoulder, or maybe I no longer had to worry about using the Kodo Amatsukami at a perfect timing. All I know is, I was more relaxed right now that it was gone. Sage scowled, but her gaze turned gentle as she smiled at me with relief. She stood up, patting my head affectionately, before announcing, "Nice job. You got full marks on your history paper." I already know that. I was taken aback at first, but I quickly turned smug and said knowingly. Sage playfully ruffled my hair, a mischievous glint in her eyes, causing it to become disheveled. Hey! A man's hair is his identity, I protested, hastily fixing my hair. Let's go eat cake, I suggested, rising from my seat and beckoning Sage to join me in the kitchen. Before indulging in the cake, I posted a picture of the cheesecake on Instagram and also posted a short video of it. The perfectly round cheesecake was cut into half while it was still hot, with hot steam air coming out from all around it. The video soon became trending on Instagram, and I caused another desert frenzy in the country without me intending to do so. Afterward, Sage, Max, and I each cut a slice for ourselves. Sage's eyes glittered as she entered the cake in her mouth, while Max loudly exclaimed, "Oh my god! This cake is on par with my orgasm satisfaction. Oh, it's great! James, you should taste it," I said, slicing a sliver of cake for the old butler who was preparing to admonish Max. Initially reluctant, James attempted to decline the offer, but I insisted. "Oh, this is great. The consistency of the cake is outstanding. With each bite, I feel as if it's melting inside my mouth." "Max made it," I interjected, causing the old butler to be taken aback. "Then, it's not that good," he begrudgingly remarked, shooting a death glare at Max. Max chuckled and clarified, "Hey, I only helped him with the meringue. He did everything else." So clearly, Edward is the one who made it. I feigned sadness, muttering, "Oh, it's not that good, huh?" Flabbergasted, James stammered, "No. No. It's very good. In fact, it's among the top 5 desserts I have ever eaten in my whole life." "Don't you mean, old life?" Max playfully insulted. I burst into laughter, thoroughly entertained by Max's banter with the old butler. Half an hour later, I arranged for Sage to be driven home in a limousine provided by the mansion staff. Now, there's only me left. "So, how will you chase me away for some alone time with your not-a-girlfriend?" Max asked playfully. "I can't help it. I'll have to dig deep into my book of tricks to achieve my goals," I played along. "Do your worst. I've seen almost everything in my 20 years of life." Reaching into my wallet, I pulled out some money. "I'll give you $20 to go away." "Deal." Max snatched the money from my hand, laughing gleefully, and swiftly made her exit. She soon left the house to go to work, as she had her own job to attend to, and I realized I had given her $20 for nothing. As I waited, I settled at the piano and began playing a rendition of Moonlight Sonata. The melancholic melody filled the room, resonating with each stroke of the keys. The old butler, captivated by the music, found himself on the verge of tears, deeply moved by the emotional performance. Word of my impromptu concert spread quickly throughout the mansion, drawing the attention of the maids and butlers who were eager to listen in. The room soon became crowded, as they gathered to witness the enchanting music that filled the air. I continued to pour my emotions into the piano, my fingers dancing across the keys with a gentle intensity. The room fell into a hushed silence, as everyone present became absorbed in the haunting beauty of the Moonlight Sonata. However, at the climax of the symphony, suddenly, I received an unexpected call from Max, who had arrived at the company. "Ah!" the staff members there exclaimed in disappointment as I stopped playing. The old butler admonished them hurriedly, "What are you guys doing here? You're not going to work?" The staff members scurried away after that. "What's wrong?" I asked, curious about the reason for her call. "Nothing. Just wondering what you're feeling right now. Regret? Disappointed? Horny?" she teased. I was taken aback by her provocative questions, unsure of her intentions. Max chuckled mischievously and continued, "Because you're not a girlfriend is stuck at work for a few more hours due to some planned late interviews." "Ah. So she's not coming?" I inquired, a hint of disappointment coloring my voice. The old butler, who had been nearby, perked up his ears upon hearing my words. He mumbled to himself, "A chance," before slowly moving away, sensing an opportunity. "I don't know for sure. But in the meantime, maybe you should rub one out." Max's voice was cut off as I ended the phone call. I rubbed my chin as I contemplated what to do with my free time. As I placed the surprise back into my room, I went and called Harvey to ask her about the company's situation. "Oh, we can buy Riot Games?" I asked with some surprise. Based on what I know, they would only sell some shares of the company to Tencent in 2012, but right now, Entertain could buy out the entire game company without even shelling out much money. Yes. The F2P, free-to-play, business model is quite fresh in the United States, but it's hard for them to gain investors because of the high risk and difficulty to maintain the business model. They got less than $1 million profit in a year, which is much less than the budget they poured into the game. Also, their games aren't quite as good as the other companies," Harvey said casually. I nodded in understanding and said, "It doesn't matter. They will only struggle at the beginning." "So, how much did we pay to get the majority of the company?" In the United States, the free-to-play, F2P, business model was initially viewed as a risky and relatively new concept. When Riot Games released their game League of Legends, LOL, which followed a similar gameplay style to Dota 2, which gained popularity with a mod rather than a standalone game, they faced criticism and skepticism. LOL was not the only game of its kind to emerge after the popularity of the Dota mod. Many similar games were created, attempting to capture the success of the original. Most of them have even better graphics and gameplay than LOL. However, what set Riot Games' LOL apart and allowed it to thrive was its free-to-play business model. By offering the game for free and generating revenue through in-game purchases and microtransactions, LOL was able to attract a large player base, particularly in Asian countries and Europe, where a significant portion of the player demographic consisted of teenagers. This business model resonated with these players, as it allowed them to access and enjoy the game without the barrier of an upfront cost. The F2P model proved to be highly successful for Riot Games, as they were able to monetize the game through optional cosmetic items, character skins, and other in-game enhancements. Harvey was among the people who was skeptical about the business model, but after I explained to her about the potential of the game, she finally relented and stopped trying to change my mind. "No. It's a total buyout for $60 million. Harvey said smugly, shocking me. "How?" I asked with disbelief. "To explain simply, we can say that I am just persuasive," Harvey replied with some condescending tone akin to a villain. In the current landscape, a new game with improved graphics and gameplay, adopting a free-to-play, F2P, business model, is poised to enter the market. However, it is anticipated that this game will transition back to a pay-to-play model within a year. As a result, players who were enjoying the game for free are expected to seek out other F2P options, potentially leading to a resurgence of interest in LOL. Meanwhile, the CEO of Riot Games finds themselves facing significant financial challenges and requires funding to sustain their game's marketing efforts. It is at this critical juncture that Harvey enters the picture and acquires Riot Games in its entirety. Despite the acquisition, the CEOs are able to retain their positions, but the ownership of the game is transferred to Entertain Company. "Great job, Harvey," I complimented her. "Please. This is like a Tuesday for me." Harvey replied dismissively, but I could still hear the excitement in her tone. "Besides, there is another good thing." "Want to hear it?" "What else?" "Did you buy out Disney?" I asked jokingly. "Not that," Harvey replied. "I was talking about your communication projects." "Oh. That. Can we proceed with it?" I asked with some nervousness. Harvey chuckled and said, "Yeah. It's a go. We can start building the tower right now." General POV. Outside of the estate, a red Porsche pulled up near the front door. The old butler James was ready to greet the visitor, the grandchildren of the estate owner, whose name seemed like a bad pun, Denise. "Meg Donnelly, a Denise. James. Are you sure Grandma asked me to meet her here?" Denise asked in confusion after getting out of the car and greeting the old butler. She was wearing a shoulderless one-piece dress with red heels, and her blonde hair fluttered freely in the wind. "Yes. Madam will come here tonight for dinner. So why don't you freshen up inside the room you always use? You know, third floor, right wing." Denise nodded in agreement, then her steps halted. "Wait. Why do you need to stress out the room location?" "That seems weird considering that I've been here since I'm just a little kid." James said dismissively, "Oh. That's for me rather than for you. You know, as I get older, my mind isn't working like it used to." Denise narrowed her eyes at the butler, then she sighed and gave the butler a hug. "You need to take care of yourself more, Uncle James. I don't know what I'm going to do if I lost you." "Lovely girl. You won't lose me. Now, go to your room. You wouldn't want to greet your grandmother smelling of sweat, cigarettes and booze, won't you?" Denise flinched as she quickly separated away from the butler. She rubbed the back of her head as she laughed nervously. "Aha. Uncle James, you know how college works?" "Yes. College is a good excuse for girls to party all night and don't even shower when they wake up in the afternoon," James said sternly. I'm gonna go," Denise said before she rushed into the house. Plan 1, complete. James muttered slyly while rolling the edge of his mustache. In the Entertain Company building, right after Max finished her call, Taylor, who was standing beside her, asked anxiously, "How is he? Did he seem sad? Or frustrated?" "Oh, he's frustrated all right," Max said knowingly, as she thought that Edward was tortured by his teacher's hot body in the afternoon. How could she know that the beautiful teacher was actually an old god in disguise, which couldn't excite Ed at the very least? 20, Max said to Taylor. The blonde girl took out a stack of cash and said, "Here, $20,000. Max widened her eyes in shock as she grabbed the money. "Wow, we are going to be good friends." "You know what? Why don't you hop on the limo and sneak into his room? After you get there, call him and say that you are not coming. Then surprise him when he comes back to his room." Taylor finished Max's plans. "That's a great idea. What room is he in?" They don't count the ground floor, so I guess, the third floor, his room is in the right wing." "You can't miss it, you just need to walk through the hallways with gargoyles and go straight to the end." "Thank you, Max," Taylor said as she rode off inside the limousine to go to Edward's temporary hiding place. Chapter 220, Surprise Gift, Part 2. Edward POV. An hour before the surprise. In the midst of my focused work in the office study, surrounded by towering bookshelves and seated at an expansive desk, I sighed as I said to Robin, "I'll screen the script myself later." How many are there again? More than 100 movie scripts were sent to the company by aspiring filmmakers and script writers. Robin replied. She added, "This work would put a lot of stress on your physical and mental well-being. I would implore you to get some help or delegate the work instead of doing it yourself." "I'll keep your advice in mind." "Ah, right. The one with the rights to make the adaptation for the Queen's Gambit book was Heath Ledger, right?" I asked. If I wasn't mistaken, the late Heath wanted to cast Elliot Page for the main role, but the entire production was scrapped after he took his own life. You're correct. The production of the adaptation was stalled again. Superstitions about the works being cursed have been circling around, and there wasn't anyone who wanted to pick up the story. Robin replied. Okay. We'll take it. Get Donna on the line. I need Harvey to handle the acquisition. And try to see what Chad Stahelski is doing right now. Stuntman Chad Stahelski had just finished with his work for the movie Ninja Assassin, and is available for hire. I met the stuntman before in the Iron Man 2 movie production. Who could have guessed that the experienced stuntman would change his career path to become a movie director in just a few years? And the first movie he would direct? It's none other than the blockbuster action movie that has a great success which turned it into a franchise, the John Wick films. After finishing the call, a sudden and familiar sound caught my attention. A gentle meow resonated from the direction of the door, causing me to turn with a smile on my face. "How did you get out again?" I said jokingly. "Nia." Approaching me with graceful steps was a stunning black cat, adorned with captivating bluish-green eyes. Her fur appeared luxuriously soft and fluffy, accentuating her elegant presence. A white bow tie collar adorned her neck, while a delicate patch of white fur on her chest added a touch of charm. With an air of nonchalance, she strolled into the room, as if she owned it. Without hesitation, the kitten hopped onto my lap, settling herself comfortably. The sound of her contented purring filled the air as she nestled against me. "Why are you so clingy now? You bit me when we first met," I said with a chuckle as I rubbed her chin with my finger. Her eyes blinked softly as she let down all of her guards against me, wanting some affection as I was working. With one hand, I rubbed her fur while the other one was working on my blueprint for the telecommunication tower. A few days ago, after the day I got my medal from the president, I had to go to the hardware store to pick up a few wire spools for my ongoing experiments when I was almost ambushed by a swarm of paparazzi. Using the back alley, I hid behind a dumpster when I saw something furry hiding behind the dump. A black hole, no, it's a cat. As I got the animal affinity, plus with the natural aura of an afterlife agent, I foolishly went to pet her. But she suddenly pounced on my left arm and bit the base of my palm as I tried to do it. Startled, I didn't push back my arm and instead, I talked calmly towards the kitten, "Don't worry. I'm not going to hurt you." For a brief moment, she maintained her bite, locking her gaze with mine. Through the reflection in her eyes, I caught a glimpse of her emotions, sensing fear and apprehension. Gradually, as she recognized that I posed no threat, she released her grip on my hand, her demeanor shifting from defensive to apologetic. The cat began to lick my hand, as if seeking forgiveness for her earlier outburst. I inspected her for a collar, finding faint traces of it on her fur, though the actual collar was absent. The absence of claws indicated she had once been in the care of an owner. Concerned for her welfare, I spoke to her in a gentle tone, "You won't survive out here." While gently stroking her dirty fur, I realized that the grime obscured the white patches that adorned her coat. "This is nostalgic," I said as I petted the cat without caring about her dirtiness. "You know, I was once lost and ended up behind a dumpster too, with bruises all over me. Then, a kind old lady stopped by and decided to take me in. Do you want to come back with me?" I asked using a comforting tone. "I'll take care of you," I said while patting her head. The cat was on guard as I asked her the question, then, after a while, she decided to purr as she rubbed her body on my leg, signaling her agreement. With gratitude for her trust, I commended her, saying jokingly, "Good girl. Come, let's open a can of tuna for you." Side by side, we made our way back to my car, and I brought her to the safety of my mansion. Moments later, James arrived in a sleek limousine to pick me up. He was startled when he saw I was holding a dirty cat, and that my shirt was also dirty because I was holding her close to my chest. But he didn't say anything and just smiled as he helped me with my bag. Upon reaching the mansion, I dedicated myself to her well-being. Max, my dad, and my aunt wanted to approach her, but she would swat their arms whenever anyone else other than me tried to touch her. The first person she warmed up to other than me was Max because was a genuine animal lover. I carefully bathed her, tending to her dirty fur, and gently brushed it until her true beauty was revealed. Then, I kept feeding her until she transformed into the affectionate and clingy companion she is today. I tried to give her the name Captain Koro, but she rejected me by hissing. Yoruchi Saihin, Gigi, Sakamoto, Komasuk, Shadow, Lucifer, Midnight, Noir, Bitey, Shady, Jet, Loki, Raven, Stella, she rejected all of them. What name did she actually accept? Vader, I need to take a shower, I said as I picked her up and brought her face close to mine. She nuzzled her face on my cheek as I laughed and said, "You can't follow me. I'm going to be nude. It's not good for underage girls to peek." Despite there was no change in her expression, I could sense that she was giving me a disdainful glare. I burst into laughter when I brought her back to the room and placed her on top of a velvety plush pillow next to my bed. She circled around the pillow before laying down there as I took off my clothes and entered the Japanese-style hot tub inside the bathroom. Ah, I moaned in pleasure as I gradually submerged myself into the water. General POV. While Edward was taking a bath, suddenly, Denise walked into the room groggily and silently. Vader was startled when she saw the new human in the house and went to take refuge underneath the giant bed immediately in panic. "Ugh, I need to take a bath," Denise muttered as she flopped down on the bed, staining the sheets with her cigarette smell. As she was feeling lazy, she undressed herself while lying down on the bed, leaving her only in her white frilly Victoria's Secret undergarment and her previous one-piece dress thrown to the ground. She also kept wearing her heels because she felt too bothersome to bend down and took it off. However, as soon as she had undressed, her sleepiness took over, and she fell asleep on the pillow less than a minute later, with loud snoring sounds filling the room. Feeling a chill due to her exposed skin, she instinctively reached for the blanket, pulling it over her entire body for warmth. The act of covering herself also served to muffle her snoring to some extent. Unbeknownst to Denise, Edward continued to unwind blissfully in the hot jacuzzi, blissfully unaware of the unexpected visitor in his room. But less than 5 minutes later, another tall blonde girl, Taylor, stealthily made her way into the room. Vader, who had barely managed to crawl out from his hiding spot under the bed, was taken aback once again and sought a deeper refuge this time, hidden from view. Taylor couldn't contain her mischievous laughter as she swiftly changed into her white lingerie, complete with thigh-high stockings and a garter belt, before slipping into a white satin gown. Taking a seat at the edge of the bed, she crossed her legs, eagerly anticipating the perfect moment to surprise Edward as he emerged from the bathtub. She didn't have to wait long, as Edward emerged from the bathroom after 10 minutes, his bare chest glistening, and a white towel draped loosely around his waist. "What? Oh my." Seeing Taylor's anticipation, his smile widened as he began to speak, but before he could utter a word, she cut in with a sultry voice, interrupting him mid-sentence. "Hello, lover," Taylor purred mischievously, her tone filled with playful intrigue. "Did you get surprised?" Edward chuckled, momentarily taken aback by her boldness. "Yeah, it was quite a surprise," he replied, his eyes twinkling with amusement. "And a delightful one at that. But that reminds me, I have a surprise for you too. Did you see her yet?" As Edward nonchalantly reached for a coffee milk drink in the nearby mini fridge, his gaze shifted towards the figure hidden beneath the blanket. In that moment, a mixture of curiosity and confusion flashed across his face, his mind racing to comprehend the situation unfolding before him. Did she bring another person here? Wait, it can't be what I'm thinking of, right? Edward thought excitedly but was still maintaining a calm facade on the surface. Her? A surprise? Taylor's mind raced with excitement upon hearing Edward's words. Her anticipation grew, ready to embrace the unexpected. However, before she could make her move, something caught her attention, a hint of a figure beneath the blanket, with the telltale presence of a high heel peeking out from beneath it. Instantly, her expression froze, and a surge of panic and astonishment washed over her. Taylor turned to face Edward, her mind racing at breakneck speed as she considered the possibilities that flooded her thoughts. Did he bring another girl? Wait. Has he already slept with her? Her mind spiraled into a whirlwind of assumptions and accusations. Her expression turned into anger, which startled Edward. And now he has the audacity to want me to join in? He's a degenerate pervert. A torrent of emotions and thoughts consumed Taylor as she grappled with the unexpected revelation, her mind racing through a series of conclusions and judgments. What's wrong? Edward asked with a chuckle, are you mad I didn't wait for you before picking her up? The cat. Taylor fumed as she said, yes. I am mad. How dare you decide something like this on your own? The girl? Edward was confused, I thought you loved things like her. The cat? When? When did I ever say I wanted something like this? The girl, Taylor replied with disbelief and frustration. Hey! We talked about this a lot of times before. Adopting a cat, Edward said with slight agitation. And I have never agreed. God! You're unbelievable. Adding a girl in their bed. Taylor stood up and shouted while pointing her finger at Edward. I don't have to take this. I'm glad you brought another surprise here, but I got to say, I really don't think that you'll hate the cat that much. You keep saying and acting like a cat lover, but I've never thought of Vader. Where are you? Her name is Vader. Taylor exclaimed in frustration before she noticed something was wrong. Wait. A cat? Vader darted from underneath the bedroom, startling Taylor as she raced towards Edward. She hopped into his arms in panic while Taylor was flabbergasted as she processed what was happening. Oh my God. She's so cute. Taylor's cat lover instinct kicked in, and she melted with affection as she saw the young kitty trying to hide in Edward's arm. Wait. You haven't met her yet? So what are you angry about? Edward asked with confusion. Taylor snapped out of her affectionate state and burst into anger again. The girl on your bed. Don't act dumb. She's literally right here. Taylor grabbed the blanket and yanked it away, revealing the sight of a barely dressed girl. Denise slowly sat up and said in annoyance, God, you guys are being so loud. Edward was taken aback for a bit before he reacted, wait. Denise? Why are you here? Huh? Newgate, and who are you? Wait, Taylor S. Why are you guys in my room? Denise asked in confusion, her groggy mind processed the information slowly. Taylor was in disbelief and she became hysterical, God. Do you really believe playing dumb will work? Aren't you the girl Ed picked up to have a threesome with us? Ed. It's not like I don't want to. Maybe not with a random skank, yeah? Threesomes? Denise was confused. I agreed to have a threesome with you guys? No. Not yet. Edward said mischievously as he figured out everything. Did James ask you to come by? I've been wondering why he insisted on me staying in this room. He has it all planned out, isn't he? Yeah, he says that Grandma is having dinner here tonight. Denise replied before she realized how she was dressed, She shrieked belatedly before grabbing another blanket to cover herself up. Taylor finally realized something was wrong and said, wait. What is happening? Edward burst into laughter as he said, just an old man's evil plan gone wrong. After calming down and explaining a few things, Taylor covered her face in embarrassment while sitting down at the edge of the bed. Edward's lips curled up and he whispered, mimicking Taylor's sentences before, while rubbing the cat's fur, not that I don't want to. Stop. Taylor squealed in embarrassment as she pressed her face to the mattress, trying to hide it. Not with a random skank, so I guess you already planned it out with someone we know? Edward added. Stop it. Taylor reacted strongly and threw a few pillows into Edward's direction. Edward burst into laughter, and while he was teasing Taylor, Denise was mulling over the entire thing with a sharp look on her face. Damn it. That old man almost sold me out. Denise said angrily. No one told you to undress and crawl into the bed. Taylor exclaimed angrily to Denise. The college girl was startled and she said defensively, Hey! What's wrong with being naked inside your own house? If anything, Newgate's the intruder here. I was invited by your grandmother to stay here. Edward exclaimed with a chuckle. Do you want to teach that old man a lesson? You might actually stay and join us, that will surely shake him to his core. He says playfully. Taylor exclaimed angrily, You! Stop it. Now! Edward burst into laughter again. However, Denise unexpectedly said, I don't really have a problem with that. Besides, I think you're really cute. She said as she slowly moved behind Taylor. She placed her finger on Taylor's chin and pulled it forcefully to meet her eyes. Taylor was startled, but she didn't resist. Denise breathed on Taylor's neck as she wrapped her arms around her stomach and said, Would it be wrong if I actually join you guys? Taylor's face blushed red and she stammered, She's thinking about it now. Edward said with a chuckle. Denise smiled seductively and said, That will surely teach the old man a lesson. Daddy issues. The common factor in all of the unconventional bedroom activities. Edward said as he put the cat down on the red velvet pillow again. You, Taylor stammered with a shaky voice. You smell. She shouted as she pushed Denise away. Startled, Denise sniffed her arm, right. I haven't freshened up yet. She got off the bed and walked to the bathroom. Before entering, she glanced at Taylor and Edward while saying, Join me or not, I won't mind. Taylor's eyes flickered as she contemplated a decision. Edward chuckled and said to her, You know we're just messing with you. Right? Denise suddenly interjected, I was being serious though? It's almost dinner time. One of the staff members said while talking to the head butler, James. Should we call Sir Newgate and Miss Denise to the dining room? James twirled his mustache as he said excitedly, There's no need. I believe they are currently getting acquainted with each other, and therefore, they shouldn't be disturbed. They must have gotten lost in talking that they are missing tracks of time. The staff member said obediently, I understand, sir. As the staff member walked away, James mulled to himself, maybe I should let them send some food into the room? The kids should be very hungry. Contrary to his expectations of what the kids should be doing, inside the room, Edward, Taylor and Denise were laying down side by side, with Edward in the middle. All three of them were nude and only had a thin white blanket covering up all of their bodies. That was interesting. Denise muttered with a smile. Her hair was disheveled and she rested her face on Edward's chest. It surely was. Edward said before he pulled Taylor's face in for a kiss. Taylor smiled and said, This is the first and the last time we're doing this. Okay. Well, if I cannot do it again, then I should not let myself have any regrets. Edward said with a mischievous smile before pulling both of the girls closer towards him again. That wraps up this part of What If Karmic Gacha System in Modern Family World. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.